Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryang Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we be protected. May we be nourished. May we acquire the capacity to study and to understand the scriptures. May our studies be brilliant. May we not quarrel with each other. And if we are, let's take it through email or maybe after class. We are on the topic of discernment between kshetrajna and kshetram. Kshetrajna being the knower, and kshetram being anything other than the knower. That is the entire objective universe. The universe which we, poets, scientists, geologists, architects, paint, sing, draw about, write poems about, endless libraries about. That is all kshetram. And before going into the subject matter, why is this important topic? Or why is this topic important? Because kshetrajna and kshetram is the topic of all of the scriptures. So you ask, why are the scriptures so big? If you walk into a library and you see 100 Upanishads, and you see the Brahma Sutra, and you see the Vedas, and then you see other methodologies, Buddhism, for example, and you ask, oh my God, so much to know. The question is, what are they all trying to communicate? They are all, in one way or the other, communicating the one reality that you are. So what is the importance of this discernment between you and that which is in the presence of you known? It is to recognize the one reality that you are already. So this means once recognized, you can walk into a library and you can feel relieved. No longer going swayed, overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information, because they're all from different angles. Our rishis, our teachers have tried to communicate this from so many different angles. Therefore, where does one's freedom lie? In the recognition of the final reality. And that is freedom while living. That is moksha. So this topic is the very topic that brings one to that vision. That is why it's important. It is also important from a standpoint of living because you gain a certain level of objectivity in your practice, in your career. So this means before we get involved deeply or entangled or enmeshed emotionally into anything that happens in our life, before we do that, we first abide in that recognition of the knower. I am the knower, free of this entire world. From that place of relief, of clarity, we have a much more stronger, a much greater capacity to problem solve in this world. That means we're able to be rational without getting enmeshed. This means we're able to create a certain amount of distance, not a physical distance, but a certain amount of objectivity towards ourselves, our relative self, our loved ones, our children, our colleagues at work. So this means this clarity isn't just about clarity for yourself, it's also about helping those around you because they're able to actually talk to a rational person because you know who you are, you're clear. And from that clarity, you can speak and solve problems that come throughout different times in our life. Okay, so let's go proceed onto the revision of the 5 koshas. The 5 koshas is the 5 errors that we place our I identity in. In other words, when we say the word I, that sense of existence, I exist, who I am, is placed in one of these 5 levels of error. So when you think of the 5 koshas, it just means one of these layers, one or more, the I is placed into. Some of us place the I into the body. So for us, it becomes all about food because food and body are very related. So in other words, we say things like, I love food. You have to ask yourself, what do you mean by love food? What loves food? Show me which part of you loves food. The body loves food because the body requires food to survive. When this kshetrajna, when this knower identifies with one or more of these layers, then this knower, I, seems to then take on the attributes of whichever layer it has identified with. For example, let's go through the revision. The Annamaya Kosha, the body. If I, the kshetrajna, the knower of the Annamaya Kosha, identifies with it, then what happens? What kind of statements do we say? We say things like, I am fat. Equally, we say, I am slim. Oh, I am pretty today. Let me get a mirror. I'm so pretty. Oh, look, I'm so pretty. Put some perfume on, right? I'm ugly. Oh, back pain. Oh, I used to be so healthy. Now I'm full of pain. All of this is Annamaya Kosha. You're only talking about attributes which relate to the physical body. They're all identities with the body. Now the question is, why are they not kshetrajna? Because these attributes that I spoke of, they're all objects of knowledge. Back pain, object of knowledge. Prettiness, object of knowledge. Ugliness, object of knowledge. Fatness, leanness, object of knowledge. So there are a bunch of knowns to the knower, to the self, to I, kshetrajna. What about pranamaya kosha? What kind of statements do we say when the I is placed mistakenly in the pranamaya kosha? It says things like, my energy is so low today. Oh, I'm so tired. Leave me alone. I can't do this, so let me just disconnect. Right? Oh, I'm so energized. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. These are pranamaya kosha attributes. My blood pressure is high. I feel sick, want to vomit, nauseous. Pranamaya kosha. How about I'm dying? Even that is pranamaya kosha. Because what's dying? What's decreasing in intensity? The prana. So in the last moment, before the person goes, the person gets very tired. If you research some experiences of those who have, like nurses, they will all say that the few days before death, what happens? What's the common attribute? The person starts to get tired. It gets very hard to stay awake. In other words, they wake up 10 minutes, they say a few words to those loved ones, they go back to sleep. They wake up again, can hardly stay awake. Tiredness, that is low prana. That means prana is decreasing slowly, slowly. So therefore, this is also not kshetrajna. This is also not I, the self. So this means before death, next time, or if there's a next time before death, right? Instead of going, oh, I'm dying, there's a certain recognition. Prana is reducing. In the presence of I, the kshetrajna, this body is coming to a close. But I am going to, but I remain, and we will get into the kshetrajna much further. So again, why is pranamaya kosha not kshetrajna? Because the levels of hunger, the levels of fatigue, the levels of energy are changing throughout the day. This morning, you were generally more energized or less energized than you are today, right? Than you are right now. In other words, your body is going through a series of energy levels all day long. We can't deny this. That's why we have coffee, to affect the prana, right? So we can feel more kind of uplifted. So they're all changing. What does this imply? It implies a unchanging reality. For example, if I take my hand like this, is this moving? Is the pen moving? Yes. Why is the pen moving? How can you tell the pen is moving? Because in reference to the unchanging, non-moving substratum, I can identify that something is moving. In other words, only in reference to an unchanging reality, that is adhisthana, the substratum, can one identify the presence of moving, changing variables such as hunger, energy, fatigue, etc., nauseous, blood pressure, etc. What about manomaya kosha? This is the mind, the era which the I gets placed into the mind. What kind of statements do we make? We say things like, I am confused. Now I'm confused, Andre. I don't know what you're talking about. This makes sense. I got a doubt, by the way. This is the mind vacillating, left to right, left to right. The mind goes through a process of vikalpa, sankalpa. Vikalpa, like a pendulum, right? Vikalpa, it's uncertain. And then it communicates with the intellect. It says, what do I need to do with this information? And then the intellect responds back. And then once the intellect feeds it back, then it goes into sankalpa. Sankalpa means, now I am certain. Should I approach her? I'm not so sure. She's very attractive. Should I go? Should I go? Vikalpa. In other words, the mind is in a state of doubt. And then what do? I go and build myself up. I say, I'm here to meet somebody. I want to talk to them. And then we sort of have a little communication with ourselves. And then what is that? Intellect. And then the intellect assesses or produces a conclusion. It sends it back to the mind. And then what does the mind do? Goes from a doubt that is vikalpa into sankalpa, into certainty. And then the body gets taken to that object of desire. So manomaya kosha, I'm confused, I have a doubt. I am lustful. I'm jealous, envious, intrigued, optimistic. That's also manomaya kosha. They're all feelings, we said last week. That manomaya kosha is responsible for your emotions. I am vulnerable. I feel very vulnerable today. Also manomaya kosha. And then what happens? Suppose that the I is placed in the anger, because anger is also manomaya kosha. What happens when I is angry? I am angry. What happens then? Then the being identified with the anger, this manomaya kosha creates a corresponding annamaya kosha response in the form of hormones. So it sends hormones that flush throughout the nervous system, and that makes the person what? Their eyes flushing red, perspiring, gets really hot, the body gets hot. The words lose a sense of continuity. There's a fractures in sentences. So all of these are effects of something that's taking place before. And what is that before? The manomaya kosha. Or in this case, from the body to the pranamaya kosha to the manomaya kosha. So there's a direct chain. In other words, whatever your body is showing is that direct reflection of what is going on in the mind. The body is just a mirror of our inner world. That's all it is. Whatever we say represents our inner thoughts. Whatever we do, however we treat others, just represents our inner world. That is it. So in other words, this is why it's helpful sometimes in a relationship, because they serve as a mirror and they can tell you everything about yourself, because you can't hide yourself. Just by being in the presence of someone, you're literally exposing your entire inner world. And therefore, they can then feed you back something that you may have missed out. Yes, Robert?
I just wanted to ask, Andre, who is it that makes the error of identification with the various kosas? Is it the true I or the relative I that makes that error?
There is only, there's only one I. There's no two I's here. I know in the spiritual world, there's a false I and there's a true I. There's only one I. So there is, the answer to that question is kshetradnya. In other words, kshetradnya gets mistaken or gets identified or enmeshed in the manomaya kosha in the form of emotions. So therefore we say, I, kshetradnya, am angry. Therefore the entire I becomes angry. I and anger are one, as it were. Not really, but as it were.
Okay. My understanding is that I am not separate from Ishvara. Atman is not separate from Ishvara. And Ishvara is all knowledge, all power. How does all knowledge commit error?
You're from a standpoint of, it is all Ishvara, but from the standpoint of the person, you're not all knowledge, all power. When I say you in this case, I'm talking about a little body. The body cannot be all knowledge, all power, because, we only know so much. We don't know everything. But the same awareness shining, the same kshetradnya shining through these eyes is the same awareness of this entire universe.
And even error is contained within all knowledge.
Error is a distortion of all knowledge, and the error belongs to this mind. So if there's errors in this mind, if the light shines through an erroneous mind, then the mind is going to produce erroneous words. So therefore, error does not belong to all knowledge. Error belongs to the erroneous mind who hasn't yet ascertained the final reality. So what is Vedanta? About correcting those errors. Because Kshetrajna cannot help but to shine through. It's shining through what? It's shining through a healthy mind or an unhealthy mind, through a sinner's mind or a saint's mind. Either way, it is shining through through the mind. So this means, what are we now addressing? We're addressing the mind, the 5 koshas. Why is Manomaya kosha not Kshetrajna? When emotion goes, think of some emotion you had today, please. Is that emotion still here now at same intensity? Likely not. So that emotion has gone. Have you gone? No. When emotion goes, I don't go. I remain the same. And because I remain the same, what's the nature of I? Knowledge. That means knowledge of, the knower. Because I remain, there is knowing of the coming and going of the emotional vacillations all day long. Therefore, the emotion can go, but I am there in whose presence, the knower of the emotion having gone. I am there in whose presence, the knower of the emotion returning, if there's a trigger in the environment, for example. Okay. Vijnanamaya kosha. This is the intellect layer. This is the more we keep going down, by the way. See, the Anamaya kosha is very easy, right? You go, oh, okay, beauty and all that. It's not a big deal. So the more we keep going down, the harder and harder it is to discern between the kshetram and the kshetrajna. So at the level of the intellect, this is where 99% of the misidentification with the I gets placed, because it is thought. Easy body, right? No problems, easy emotions, but thought, that's a different story. So what kind of statements do we make at the level of the intellect? The assessing, calculating mechanism. We say things like, I believe this is true. I don't believe that. I think. I don't think that. And then how we're kind of like, this is where quarreling happens, right? At the level of the intellect. The I is so enmeshed in the Vijnanamaya kosha that it has to preserve that thought. It has to sustain that thought to be true. Because if that thought is violated, if that thought is compromised, who's compromised? I'm compromised. But who wants to be compromised? Nobody. Therefore, what does a person do? They do in all of their power to preserve their belief. The moment you give them something different, what is the person going to do? Nope, don't want to hear it. Close my ears, go elsewhere. In other words, because the I is so invested in what it knows, it's going to stay in one community and keep on listening to the same information without having the need to check, not wanting to check. The moment something comes up, it says, nope, this is wrong. So this is the identification of the intellect. For example, I'm a non-dualist. That's Vijnanamaya kosha. I'm an Advaitin, right? I'm a Christian. These are all conclusions in the Vijnanamaya kosha. I'm a Caucasian. I'm an Indian. I'm a scholar, very smart scholar. On the basis of that, my identity is, I'm confident because I'm a scholar. I'm a supporter. I'm an action taker. They're all conclusions on the basis of your personality, which you have formed through the course of your life. And so then we walk with these conclusions and we say, who are you? Oh, I am a supporter. I am a loving father. I'm a gentle mother. I am a funny person. I am a comedian. I am this or that. These are all conclusions in the Vijnanamaya kosha. How about a mass example? I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. America, right? Anywhere, it doesn't matter where it is. We're Republicans, we're Democrats. This is all holding on to one's identity of Democrat or Republican, holding on to one's conclusion. In other words, the I has been placed in the Vijnanamaya kosha, unwilling to let go of it because it finds comfort in there. It would rather believe something than not believe in anything. It would rather preserve its sense of the model of the world, then get challenged because it is a comfort zone. And it's better to be in a comfort zone than in a sort of a twilight zone where I don't know what is what. It is my understanding that, and then fill in the blanks. That is also Vijnanamaya Kosha. Okay, so let's ask the question, why is Vijnanamaya Kosha not Kshetrajna, not the knower, not I? Your thoughts are undergoing an ongoing evolution. Yes? Evolution means they're constantly evolving, right? A year ago, you would say, man, I was immature. Like I wasn't thinking so sharply as I was now. Yeah? So we all know that our thoughts constantly go through a series of modifications, evolution. It is evolving, it is growing, it is maturing. If I asked you, did you think the same way that you thought 10 years ago? You would say, no. I'm thinking in a much more expensive way now. So even expensiveness is also an evolution. So now think about it this way. If I, the Kshetrajna, the knower, was evolving with them, with those thoughts, then does that not imply that from the standpoint of today, you would have no connection to those thoughts of yesterday, to those thoughts of 5 years ago? Today, my thoughts are so much more evolved than 5 years ago, right? Suppose you say that. But what are you going to say in the future? You're going to say, today, my thoughts are so much more evolved than 5 years ago. So in other words, at any point in time, I remains free of the quality of the thoughts. Otherwise, you had no connection to the kind of thoughts you've had 5 years ago. But you do have a connection. So there's a thread that underlies every quality of thought. And that thread is the knower. The knower of the thought 5 years ago being immature. The knower of the thought 2 years ago being kind of evolving. The knower of the present thoughts being what they are right now. That same knower remains the same, knowing about the thoughts 5 years in the future. 5 years in the future, you're going to say what? 5 years ago, I was like this. Therefore, at any point in time, the knower is never contaminated, influenced by the thoughts, remains free of the thoughts. You understand this logic? So the knower, you know about the quality of your thoughts. Last year, my thoughts were half as sharp. The quality of my thoughts were half as sharp as they are today. But today you say what? My thoughts, in the future, you're going to say what? My thoughts are, double sharp that they were today. So at any point in time, you, the knower, remain free in order to clearly, distinctly identify the quality of thoughts at any moment in time. Causal body. How is the causal body known as an object of knowledge? When you say, I'm going to sleep, I'm looking forward to sleep. Is everyone looking forward to sleep at some moment or the other? Okay, we need to be on the same page. Good. Yeah, okay. We definitely are looking forward to sleep. Now, when you say that, what do you mean? Do you mean option A, I'm looking forward to that place where there's a lot of weird things going on, called a dream? Or do you mean, I desire to go to that place whereby there is total freedom of objects, whereby there is a place of nothingness, there is no life, because there is no four koshas? Which one are we referring to when we say, I look forward to go to sleep? You tell me. Number 2, I can read your lips, good. In fact, who would be looking forward to sleep if all you're going to do is just dream a bunch of, strange Mickey Mouse faces that don't last for more than 2 seconds, replaced by some flying angel, replaced by some monster? You wouldn't be looking forward to sleep like that, would you? No, it's just weirdness. In other words, when we say, I want to go to sleep, we are saying, I want to be free of everything. I want to be free of life. Why do we say that? Because are there 4 koshas in the deep sleep? No. You can only say there's 4 koshas now in the waking state, but in deep sleep, there is nothing. Why is there nothing? Because the 4 koshas are not there. Therefore, there is no life. The fact that you and I both relate to these two options, both dream and deep sleep, implies what? Both of them are objects known to you. You know about deep sleep. You didn't say, I don't know what you're talking about. I only dream. So both of them are objects of knowledge known to whom? To me, the kshetrajna, to me, the self, the knower, because of whom the deep sleep is verified and the dream state is also verified. When I say verified, I mean in the presence of me, in the presence of I, the knower, these states have their glory. These states are shone upon by my presence. That's why you're now referring to them. That's why you're relating to both dream and deep sleep. Implying what? You cannot be either of them. You cannot be the deep sleep and you cannot be the dream state because you know about them as an object of knowledge. Now in deep sleep, what happens? The I gets totally identified with the causal body. What is the causal body? Potential. That seed which produces your sanchita karma, in this case, your prarabdha karma, that means how your life is to unfold. It is also the seed that produces samskaras. What are samskaras? The habits which are now making you listen the way that you're listening. The habits that make you the person every day the way that you are. And what did we just say? I know about, I as the knower, kshetrajna, know about the entire deep sleep, which means what? I am not the deep sleep. I am not the causal body, which means what? I am none of my samskaras, I am none of my habits or impressions, and I am none of my prarabdha karma. In other words, this person has nothing to do with the self, with I, the knower. Yes, Robert.
Yeah, I struggle a little bit with this because I remember that I dream, so I have knowledge of dreaming. I don't remember deep sleep, but I can infer the presence of sleep because I know time has passed.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So this is a common objection that a person will bring up. They will say that on the basis of, having no presence of myself for some hours, I can then say, that was sleep, right? But think about it this way. How is sleep to you? Is it blissful?
Yeah.
So this means you still know about the place of sleep, and that is bliss. See, when you say that bliss, it's got nothing to do with dream. Dream is just weird, right? You're not referring to that bliss in your dream state. You're referring to that bliss in your deep sleep state. So this means even if you bring up inference, the fact that you know that sleep is pleasant, blissful, enjoyable, freeing, implies that I am very much there to witness the sleep itself as an object of knowledge. In other words, even no world, no body, nothing, even that is another object of knowledge known to myself, the kshetrajna, the knower.
I'm wondering why it's so difficult for us to accept that we are still present while we're asleep, because we don't have a memory of it.
Yeah.
And therefore we identify ourselves as I am the one who has the memories.
I wouldn't say that is a concern that we identify. It doesn't matter. It is still a object of knowledge. So what I'm saying here is even deep sleep, just the fact that we all know that we sleep. See, it doesn't matter if you infer it. That's still what? Vijnana, my course, that's still in the intellect. I'm talking about the experience of sleep. Nobody here said, I only relate to dream. There is sleep. So there is a certain knowledge that sleep is a place of nothingness, that sleep is a place whereby there is no life there. No one's going to say, I'm not so sure. Sleep, when I sleep, I'm actually seeing things. Then what are you referring to? You're referring to dream state. You're not referring to deep sleep state. Because you're only saying sleep is blissful. Why? Because there is no objects. So what is sleep? Non-duality. No presence of objects, because there's no body. There's no mind. And there is no experience. What gives you experience? The body and the mind.
We are able to estimate how long we have been asleep. So does that imply time still?
Well, I mean, the estimation of sleep, I guess what Robert was saying is that is also based on our inference, the estimation of sleep.
Yeah.
Because now you kind of mix in the hours, you go, well, I close my eyes at 11, woke up at 6, and therefore I infer. But think about it this way. Does anyone actually use inference to analyze their sleep? Like, do you actually use your inference to go, on the basis of my inference, I can now deduce minus dream state, anything left has to be deep sleep. Does anyone think like that? No. You just know I slept. Boy, I had a wonderful sleep last night. You're not referring to your dream when you say that to your partner.
Right.
Oh, I slept so well. You don't say I dreamt so well. So whenever you say these statements, this restfulness you're referring to, place whereby there was nothing there.
I might be bringing in something complicated here. I heard just recently about dream yoga, which is supposedly also in Buddhism.
Yeah.
And so they find divine knowledge through their dreams as well. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, sure. Dream can be used for, okay, good. I'm glad you brought this up, Kelsey, because in the dream state, what specifically is active? Specifically, Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha. That's why anything in your dream you can relate to. Why? Because all of your life comes from Vijnanamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha. And of course, the causal body is there too, because causal body is that which makes you think in that certain way. But is your body there? Absolutely not. So this is number one. This is why the dream is so fluid, because the physical gross body, the Annamaya Kosha, is not there. Therefore, we can fly, we can go from place to A to place B. Now, when people go to a dream, what do they say? I just want to prove to you that it is indeed Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha that are active. Why do people sometimes want to lucid dream? This goes with what Kelsey is saying. Some people, option A, want to lucid dream to experience pleasure. Implying what? I want to feel good. That depends on the Manomaya Kosha. The second type of person wants to dream for what? Extracting wisdom. This is what Kelsey is now saying. Why? Because a dream is total identification without the burden of this physical body with your life thoughts. So whatever is stored in the unconscious memory comes out in the dream because it is not burdened by the Annamaya Kosha. There's no weight of the Annamaya Kosha pulling it down. This is why when a person dreams, if they're lucid about it or they can remember it, they will often see some unresolved issues come out, like with their mom, their dad, their parents, their brother or sister, and it will keep on coming over and over again in their life. Why? Because it still has not been resolved fully with that person. So what do you then do? You use that information. The moment you wake up, you write it down. This thought about my dad or mom has now appeared twice, and it's always a fight. You write that down, and then you reflect upon it. Maybe you go through a forgiveness process. You go through a reframing process. Try to look at it in a different way. Well, parents, she or he could have not known any better. They too were raised by their parents, so they only knew what they knew, and they thought they were doing the best because they loved me. Now you can go use the reframing process to dissolve whatever unconscious burden is stored in the mind that's not even coming out in this waking state. That's not even a problem. It seems like it's not a problem, but it's still a slight burden in the waking state. Therefore, don't just skip your dreams, but look at them as a signature of something to be potentially worked upon in this waking state. In fact, I think it was Carl Jung, right? Carl Jung, right? He used the dream therapy a lot to help to extract the called the shadow, right? The shadow side of a person, and thus to present them into a light whereby they can be worked with, right? Because now you have something tangible to work with. But in the waking state, it's very hard. Because in the waking state, you're burdened down by the body, by the noise, by the environment. But in the dream state, all of these burdens are gone. So in other words, you're still there minus one burden. Because there's minus one burden, you're able to pick up a lot more sensitive topics in your dream.
I guess that's what the Aboriginal dream time's all about as well, is they took a great store on that aspect of living.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not quite sure what they use the dream specifically, but even actually, that's a good point, because even in, Peru, like they will use, for example, ayahuasca, the shamans, to induce the conscious state of dream, whereby the person can then go inside their unconscious mind, and then they can pull out those deeply ingrained notions that have been burdened and forgotten, pushed under the carpet since a child. Because the child, if you think about it, doesn't have the capacity to address them because he or she doesn't know. So what's the easiest way for a child to handle it? They go into a coping mechanism, and that's called denial. Because the child doesn't have that maturity to say, hey, I feel something that's pulling me down. I want to talk to somebody about it. Therefore, all of these burdens that we've put down as a child now later bind us in future in life. And then the dream can be used to detect them and therefore to pull them out and just kind of go through this reframing and forgiveness process onto them.
Can memory and imagination be construed as part of the dreaming process, dreaming state?
Yeah, so memory and imagination, they're all involved because wherever there is manomaya kosha and vijnanamaya kosha, there is memory and there is also intellect. They're all there working together in the dream. Memories, you remember your dad, that's from the past, right? And then you're feeling something in the dream, nightmare, that's a fear, right? That's an emotion, manomaya kosha. You're having a conversation with somebody that requires rationale, that requires order. What gives order? Vijnanamaya kosha, the intellect. Okay, so again, what is deep sleep? It is ignorance of objects. Total ignorance of objects. Why? Because there is no four koshas. What provides us data? One of these four koshas. But in the deep sleep, there's no four koshas. Therefore, there is nothing to know. Absolutely zero. Blank. But at the same time, there's no life. That's why sleep is so freeing. In fact, sometimes even a person who goes on a high, on a drug high, right? They're like on some kind of a high for hours and hours. What do they all want to go to after the high has just exhausted their body for like 10 hours? They all want to go to sleep. In other words, nothing can top sleep because sleep is total negation of all the four koshas. And that's why it feels blissful. Unfortunately, in one of the Jains, my first teacher said, sleep is 2/3 enlightened because you're not unfortunately there to enjoy your freedom of objects. You are there, but you're covered by total time. You're totally identified with the causal body. What's causal body? Total ignorance. That means I don't even know that I am free of objects in deep sleep. That's why we can only talk about deep sleep from the state of this waking. And then we can use also inference. We can kind of use this memory of, yeah, definitely I want to go to sleep. And then, it feels blissful, it feels freeing. But in deep sleep, you can't do that. Because the I, kshetrajna, has been forced to identify with the causal body. And the causal body is potential. What is potential? Nothing has manifest.
When we talk about kshetrajna, are we referring to jiva or consciousness?
When we talk about kshetrajna, we're talking about consciousness, Brahman.
Okay, so when we talked about deep sleep, and we said that we usually mention that I had a very good sleep, right? So that's the experience of good sleep. And jiva is the one who experiences not the absolute consciousness. That's what my understanding is. Then who knows that I had a good sleep?
In the presence of the kshetrajna, there is knowledge that there was sleep. Okay.
Who says that I had a good sleep? Not kshetrajna, right?
In the presence of I, there is a memory of deep sleep. And where does that memory belong to? The causal body.
You also mentioned about causal body only when you talked about deep sleep. So I don't understand what is the connection between deep sleep and causal body. Because I understand that causal body is just the samskaras and our impressions, right?
Okay, good. So good question. So causal body is the seed which sends our samskaras or makes our life the way that it is through prarabdha karma. So what is causal body? It is potential. That is the seed. So what's the connection between deep sleep and causal body? Kshetrajna is totally identified with the causal body. What's the causal body? Potential. That means
And
nothing is manifest.
Okay, so this is beyond all the 5 koshas.
Yeah, exactly. So these are all the 5 koshas. So you say, what is causal body like? What is it like to be identified with the causal body? Deep sleep.
Okay.
That's why they also say deep sleep is anandamaya kosha, bliss sheath, because there's nothing to know. That's why I say sleep is so blissful.
Okay.
Why is it blissful? Because I don't know, because there's ignorance of everything.
It's ignorance of ignorance, right?
I don't know that I don't know. Yeah.
One more question. When we talk about manas, we say that there are 4 parts of it: mana, buddhi, chitta, and ahankar, right? How I'm relating to that information is manomaya kosha is man, vigyanmaya kosha is the intellect, buddhi.
Yeah.
Where is chitta and ahankar belong to in these 5 kosha?
Okay, so ahankara belongs to vijnanamaya kosha, the sense of I, and chitta belongs to manomaya kosha.
And when we talk about ahankar, there is one ahankar which keeps everything together. It's a substance or tattva. And there is one ahankar which is ego, which is buddhi. Is there any difference between the two?
There's only one ahamkara that contains the entire experience of the 5 koshas. That is what ahamkara is.
And that belongs to Vijnana kosha, right?
That belongs to Vijnanamaya kosha. So the ahamkara, the containing principle, belongs to the Vijnanamaya kosha. That sense of I am, that is Vijnanamaya kosha.
And when we go to deep sleep, this ahankara is missing, right?
This ahamkara is gone with the intellect, with the 4 koshas.
With the Vijnana kosha.
Yeah, it's all gone. There's nothing there. That's why there's no person in deep sleep to experience and to say, I am now enjoying the absence of objects, because the ahamkara is not there.
Then what brings us back from the deep sleep when ahankara is not there? Because ahankara brings everything together, right?
Good. Why do you wake up? Because your prarabdha karma has now started and ready to play out for the next day. This is exactly how the universe comes and goes in multiple cycles. For example, our universe is only 13.7 billion according to the scientists. That's just one creation. Where does that potential, that entire universe go when there's nothing? In potential, the macrocosmic causal body, which I will talk in the later verses. In that same way, where does individual go during deep sleep when there's nothing? In the microcosmic causal body. Pure potential. What is deep sleep? Again, it is absence of objects. And this itself is an object of knowledge known to whom? Kshetrajna, to you. Are we fully understanding this?
I mean, you talked about deep sleep being 2/3 enlightenment.
Yeah.
When there's no objects.
As though, like as it were, it's just a good metaphor. It's not actually.
So is it, I mean, if that's the case and there's enlightenment and understanding of the absolute truth, going away from objects and nothingness, or is it false?
No. So what we mean, okay, good. So what we mean by that, see, this is how every phrase can have a little bit of a misinterpretation. What we mean by that is in deep sleep, you are totally free of objects. We have all now established that. But I am not there to enjoy the freedom of all objects resolving into myself. I'm not there to enjoy that.
Is it better to say that it's just the pure awareness of nothing?
Yeah, okay, so one more thing I want to bring up. This is also a point of error where it happens. Now we think, okay, so death is like deep sleep, right? We think, so if I die, it's just going to be like this blackness and there's just nothing to know. Geez, who wants to die like that? I'd rather be reborn, right? You'd rather be aware of, falling in love or kind of going through experiences than just being aware of blackness. This is absolutely not what death is like. Because while the person is alive, what are they still held by? The causal body. The causal body is the seed. That seed is total ignorance. That's why we don't know anything deep sleep. But what happens when the body officially dies? That causal body, assuming the person has attained moksha, that causal body is destroyed. Therefore, the knower, kshetrajna, is now aware of the entire universe all at once. That's why we say, when the jivan muktaha dies, what happens? They are at one with Brahman as Brahman, but they're also at one with Ishvara as Ishvara. So it's not like, oh, I die, now there's blackness. No, when there is death, I am everything, in and through everything. That's why we say Sat Chit Ananda, limitless. I am limitless. That means there's nothing that can limit me. Now you can't say death is darkness, because darkness is just, that's not limitless. It's just dark. That's what a Jivan Muktaha, quote, experiences upon death. Even though, of course, that's why I put it in quotes. Experience is not the proper word, because that implies duality now. I am experiencing that. It's not like that. But I hope you understand what I mean by this. It's not actual experience, but I am as that. Let's go through a revision of Kshetram and Kshetrajna. Again, these two topics are the only major topics of all of the Upanishads. This is why I'm going through an exhaustive study of this. I'm not going to just kind of do it through an academic and then here's what the knower, here's what the known, let's move on. This is not it. This is an understanding. Therefore, we're going through an exhaustive analysis of the final reality. Okay. What is the knower? Knower is Kshetrajna. How many knowers are there? There is one knower. That one knower is the knower of everything, the entire existence. The entire existence is the knower. In other words, whatever is in existence is shone upon, is illumined. By whom? The one Kshetrajna, the one knower. So Kshetrajna is one. Kshetram is many, are many. What do you mean are many? Hand, this is one Kshetram. Air you're breathing, another Kshetram. Space, another Kshetram. Clouds, birds, rain outside, land, soil, insects. Anything nameable is Kshetram. What about? Whatever you're going to say is also going to be a nameable because you're going to say it. Anything that's named with form is Kshetram. And there are infinite Kshetrams all throughout the entire universe. Different worlds, different lokas, as the Veda speaks about. Swarga loka, if you want to speak about it, Kshetram. Kshetrajna is different from Kshetram. I am different from the Kshetram. Yes, later on we will now resolve these differences. I know someone's going to say, some advanced person is going to say, no, you are one with everything. We go through a process first, and then we resolve these apparent differences. But for the beginning, we're going to say Kshetrajna is different from Kshetram. And then later on, I'm going to say there's actually no difference, but that's going to come in time. So there's a methodology to this. So let's give you 4 logics why Kshetrajna, why you, when I say the word you from now on, it's going to refer to Kshetrajna, the knower, consciousness. Why you are different from Kshetram. When I say Kshetram, in this case specifically, we will refer to the 5 koshas. Okay, we're not going to refer to the world yet. That's going to come later in these verses. Logic 1. I know, you know about the waking state, dream state, and deep sleep state. Is there any more states than these? Do you have some magical 4th state? No. In other words, what? No. So this is the common experience that nobody can deny. There's only 3 states in the entire existence. Waking, right now, this is the waking state. Many things are happening right now in the waking state. If you're a therapist, you have clients. Those clients are working with you in the waking state. Good luck trying to work with them in the dream state. You can't, because everything's too fluid. Nothing stays. Hello, client. Next moment, they're Mickey Mouse. Right? They'll come back, and now, a huge monster comes. So this means everything, all knowledge, all understanding happens in this stable waking state. In fact, our entire conversation with our friends, with our spouse, with everyone has been nothing but happening within the waking state. And they're coming from the experiences of the waking state. In fact, even the dream state is nothing but a collection of experiences gained in the waking state. This is why you remember so many things you see so many things in your dream. They always relate to what? Things that you have done in the waking state. Marriage, waking state. Death, waking state. Moksha happens in the waking state. The study right now in the waking state. And then we have the dream state. Just as everything remains minus Annamaya Kosha. In the waking state, you don't have your physical body. I know you can say it, you do have your physical, but you can only say that from what? From the waking state. You can't say that in the dream state. This is why you never see your physical body in the dream. Did you ever see your physical body in the dream? It's almost like just like this witness in the dream, right? There's always a person that's looking outwards, but you never actually look down and go, oh, here's my body. I remember dreams very well, by the way, so I can analyze them in detail. But if you analyze your dreams, you will never see that you actually have a body. It's almost kind of like someone's working with the world. There's like an observer just looking at things. Everything's like kind of like fluid, but there's never a body in the dream state. And then the deep sleep state. Nothing, no cautious, nothing to say about it. There's no instrument that's capable of going, oh, this feels really good right now. I don't have to worry about my life. In fact, the only reason why you feel so good in deep sleep is because your life is gone. You're free of your life, of your problems, right? So in other words, nothing, the person called Lorena, Sonia, Ajay, Thomas, Sandy, that person is gone. What remains in deep sleep? The kshetrajna, the knower, that is still present now in the waking state. So I know about the deep sleep, I know about the dream state, and I also know about the waking state. Not only that, but the kshetrajna, you, the kshetrajna, also know everything, all of the contents within each state. We described that. Your whole life is nothing but content. Where? In the waking state. I had a weird dream last night. That's all content. Oh, I slept so well. That's content. When I say content, I'm talking about object of knowledge. Therefore, because they're all objects of knowledge, it means what? They're all other than the knower. They're all other than me. In the presence of I, the kshetrajna, they're all known to me. So your entire life is nothing but what? These three states just stacked together, one next to each other. Anything you're going to say, any story you're going to share is going to be nothing but yesterday's waking state. And then, 25 waking states ago, 25-year waking states ago. All of these states are just in you, the knower. Logic 2. I cannot be the mind. You cannot be the mind. Why? Because that would mean that as many minds, as many eyes. Suppose right now you say, I'm my mind. If you say that, then you also have to say, I'm all my thoughts, right? I'm everything that I believe and that I don't believe. Suppose you say that right now. Okay, so what are we going to say? So this means all of us now have different minds. Therefore, since I am the mind, there's as many minds, as many eyes. Okay. Does a dull person aspire to be better? Absolutely. A dull mind eye aspires to be a sharp mind eye, implying what? The knower of the dull mind is free of the dullness. If you were your mind and the mind was dull, then dullness would be a reality for you. You would never aspire to be better in your life because dullness would be the default reality of how it is. But that is nobody's experience. We all constantly aspire to improve this mind. What does that mean? The knower remains free of whatever this mind happens to be. Whatever qualities this mind is undergoing or is enjoying or not enjoying, the knower always remains free. In the presence of that free one, which you are, the kshetrajna, is a sense of aspiring to improve this mind. And that can only happen if the substratum, if the knower is never contaminated, never tamed, never influenced by the actual mind itself. Logic number 3. We say my mind, my life. Okay, what does that mean? What does that imply? My mind, my life. It means the possessor and the possessed are different. The possessor can never be the possessed. Therefore, to say my mind, you cannot be your mind, because if you were your mind, why would you say my mind? Just the fact that we say my body, my mind, my life, my pain, my emotion, my hardships, my perturbations, right? My confusion, my doubt implies that whatever you said that came after I is not actually I. So we might as well just rephrase it. We can say, in the presence of I, the knower, kshetrajna, there is presence, there is a knowledge that this mind is dull. In the presence of I, the knower, there is knowledge that this mind is sharp. In the presence of I, the knower, there is knowledge that this person is the way that he or she is. Therefore, the person can be anything, but the I, the knower, always remains the same. Just the knower, just the one that in whose presence whatever is taking place is known. Whether the dull mind is known, whether the sharp mind is known, it doesn't matter. It is still known. Even death. Last few moments, right? Oh, dying. In the presence of I, the kshetrajna, this body is dying. The kshetrajna never dies.
But when you're trying to explain to other people that haven't got it yet, their identity, whilst they get it that they're not their body, that's quite easy to get past that point.
Yeah, sure.
But most people can't get past the point that they're not their mind. And to try to actually get an understanding across to them, the difference between identifying with the mind as being the true self, as opposed to just consciousness as being the true self. That's the sort of the bit that I was grappling with there.
Number one, I wouldn't actually dispute that, because just to give them a big lecture is going to take too long. So this means you have to slowly nurture the person so that they can slowly start to receive the teaching. One thing that you can say is what specifically has changed, and you can just go with that conversation and help them understand to pinpoint, because often we say I changed. Okay, fine, I get it, and I'm happy for you. Well done. But what specifically has changed? Has your behavior changed? Are you more happy? And they can have engage in a conversation like that. So let's leave it at that. Engage in a conversation. Don't say no, you're not. You didn't change. Your mind has changed. This is out of bounds, because you need to have a proper class environment to get through to the person. Logic number 4: to say that the world or the mind is changing, it is only possible, as I said last time, in the presence of an unchanging substratum. So this means there has to be the presence of something. And because that has not changed at all, only then you can say that this has moved from here to there. If they're going together, suppose this was a vast canvas and they're going together, there's no way you can identify whether this is moving. In other words, a substratum needs to be completely present for anything in its presence to be validated as undergoing a change or not. For example, you can only say that the earth is revolving. Why? Spinning. Why? Because in reference to the substratum called the sun. Is the sun moving? No. Because the sun's not moving, we can say that the earth is rotating. If you're on a train looking outside the window, you say, oh, the train's moving. Why are you saying that? You're saying that because in the reference to a non-moving environment, the train is known to be moving. Did you ever have that experience whereby you were in a train and you're looking outside another train and both of the trains start to go at the same time? Very strange feeling, right? And you're not quite sure, are you going or what's going on here? Why? Because the substratum has been lost. You lost point of reference to an unmoving substratum. Therefore, you only validate the presence of changeness, of modification in the presence of that which is unchanging. And do we not say that our entire life is undergoing change? Yeah, absolutely. Every day is different. Your emotions are different. Your sense of who you are, how you feel about yourself is different. How you relate to people is different. Entire life is about changes, only in reference to the knower who remains changeless. Now, objection comes up. Because of this unchanging substratum, you say that we can relate to all of our days that happened before, only because of this unchanging substratum. So this means we have a sense of continuity, a sense of every day has passed, only in the presence of this unchanging I. Could this not be a memory, right? Valid objection. Could this sense of continuity that every day is going by, this is not the presence of kshetrajna, this is the presence of memory. Because the memory is there, we can then identify that every day is passing. That's a valid objection. It's not the kshetrajna that validates the changes of the days, but it is the memory that validates the changing days. To remember something, is it not true that you have to put effort into it? You have to do the remembering. Do you do remembering to have a sense of continuity? Hold on. Let me just remember if I existed yesterday. Okay, yeah, I did. Okay. Do you do that? No. There is an effortless sense of continuity. So this means the sense of continuity that every day has passed does not rely on memory, but is in the presence of the knower that these days, this person that you're carrying around 24/7 called Nagesh, Mamata, Goknur, this person is known to undergoing these different changes in the presence of the kshetra. It's got nothing to do with memory. What is a kshetram? It is referring to both body, mind, that means the 5 koshas, but also the world. Now, the world is easy, is it not? The world is okay, kshetram, I understand. This is, kshetram, definitely anything. The chair is kshetram. So with the world, it's very easy to detect this kshetram because it's distanced. It's away from this body. But what about the body? Much harder. Why? Why is body so hard to identify clearly as kshetram? Because it is intimately worn by the kshetrajna. As it were, not actually, but intimately worn from day one. From beginningless beginning, this kshetrajna has been wearing this body. Therefore, it's harder to recognize that this body is also the world. So whenever we speak of the world, is it not strange that whenever we talk about the world, we always refer to the world as in outside, like everything else except this person, right? So why? Because this person has been worn by the kshetrajna since the beginning. Therefore, when we speak of the world, we don't include this person, but it's actually this person also, because you're also made of the same atoms as the world. The plants that you grow and on the farm is what this body is, same material. Now I need someone for this experiment. Okay, let's use Kelsey. Okay, suppose that I show to Kelsey, what's this? And then she goes, a glass. And then I show her, what's this? She goes, pen. And I show this, what's this? And this is a stand for the iPad. And I keep on showing 10,000 objects. And Kelsey's just going to keep on naming them, right? She's going to give me the names of every object. And then she's exhausted. Now, suppose I put Kelsey, suppose this is happening in a room, right? So it's not like I can keep on sending you 10,000 million objects. So, it's only maybe 100 objects. And Kelsey names every single object in the room. What is one thing that she's not going to name? If you can see Kelsey's face.
The space.
Okay, she's not going to good. She's not going to mention the space. What else is she not going to mention?
She's not going to mention herself.
Look at Kelsey now and tell me. You get 10 marks for this.
Herself?
Continue.
Her glasses.
Who said that?
Shiva.
Shiva, well done. So, in other words, Kelsey will keep on naming everything except this intimately worn instrument called the spectacles. Why? The moment you put on this instrument that's originally intended for sight, then you quickly start to integrate it or enmesh it with the knower, with the subject, with the kshetrajna. In that same way, what is this body? An instrument used for perception, just like the spectacles. But because this body has been intimately worn, we mention everything as the world except this person. Same concept. What is now the body-mind, having gone through this? Just like the spectacles. Instrument, I use it to perceive the world. At what point does it get enmeshed as the kshetrajna? That's called beginningless ignorance. What is Vedanta doing? It is removing that point of incorrect association. That's why we call this kshetrajna viveka. Discernment between the I, the original I, the knower, and the instrument. Let's move on to kshetrajna. So that was kshetra. Now the knower. What is a kshetrajna? It is that which pervades this body, mind. Giving it, by pervading it, it gives it the capacity to be aware of itself. The moment you create a human form, an instrument capable of receiving awareness, that instrument is going to then be aware of itself. The moment you create a baby in the field of awareness, that baby is going to reflect that consciousness on its instrument, on its mind, and therefore it's able to say, I know about, I see, I feel, I hear. So what is kshetrajna? It pervades the body. Right now, your body is being pervaded by kshetrajna. I'm not talking about somebody over there. Everything's being pervaded by kshetrajna, including this body. And because it is pervaded, this body becomes aware of whatever is going on in those 5 koshas. If it's pain, so be it. If it's an emotion, that's also being known. If it's a strange thought, that is also being known. If it's something that's bothering, that's also being known. So whatever right now is going in those 5 koshas is known only because this body is pervaded by you, the kshetrajna. And how is this you, the kshetrajna, known? As self-evident existence. Nobody here has any problems recognizing that I exist. That is the most obvious knowledge. Does any parent tell their daughter or son, hey, daughter, you exist? Like, hey, did you know you exist? I just want to let you know, right? You exist. Not one parent has ever said that to anyone. Why? Because it is the most obvious fact in the entire universe. Which is funny, isn't it? We say to our children everything other than the most obvious. And therefore we miss it in life. And then we start chasing for it. We start looking for it. What are we looking for? Our existence. Now, when I say the word known as self-evident existence, am I talking about an object of knowledge? Or am I talking about direct knowledge of yourself? Am I talking about paroksha jnanam or aparoksha jnanam when I say known as self-evident existence?
Aparoksha.
Aparoksha jnana. In other words, you are not an object of knowledge. It is only in the presence of you that every other object of knowledge gets its chance, including this body and this mind, these 5 koshas. So what is a human being then? Neither just kshetrajna nor just kshetram, but a combination of both. You're both the knower and the known. You're carrying around this known instrument since the beginning, called the body-mind. In the presence of you, the knower, this known object called body is going through its experiences. And then you say to your friends, oh, I'm going through a hard time. Why are you saying that? Because you are pervaded, your body is pervaded by you, the kshetrajna, the knower. Therefore, the knower illumines this mind, this troubled, turbulent mind, and then he calls a friend and says, oh, my mind's going through some problems and, this, nothing's working out, etc. Because awareness, the one light of awareness is constantly shining on this mind, on this body, on this instrument. How do we convert this kshetra and kshetrajna into knowledge, into actuality? Let's bring this more into a sadhana, into a way of thinking, into an attitude. How do we do that? We need to change how we think about our existence. So right now, you need to start thinking differently about who you are. And how do we do this? There's 3 levels of knowing oneself. The first, we'll call this level 1. We all start out how? I am this body-mind. We don't actually say I am a body-mind, but we start assuming we're a body-mind. So level 1, I am a body-mind. Then we get into spirituality. What do we say then? Oh, now having heard this knowledge, yeah, I'm a body. And in me, there is the kshetrajna. I am the body and the mind. And in me, there's this knower. Does this sound right?
It's like saying I have an atma, I have consciousness.
Good. Okay. In other words, it's still now preserving that I am this body mind. And in me, there's another component called the knower. And this knower knows about this body. Level 1, I am this body mind. Level 2, I am this body mind, but in me, there's a kshetrajna, consciousness. These are all paroksha jnanam, unascertained knowledge. This is still ignorance. What's level 3? This is called aparoksha jnana. This is the direct thinking of a wise person, of a jivan muktaha. This is level 3. I am consciousness. I am kshetrajna. And this body is an incidental, it is a borrowed instrument through which I, the kshetrajna, get to engage with this world. In short, I am consciousness with an incidental body. So what does this mean? We have to start thinking like this, speaking like this. Now, am I saying use this as an affirmation? No, this is not an affirmation. Affirmation, what's the difference between what I'm telling you now and an affirmation? Affirmation is a statement without understanding. I am consciousness. And you haven't investigated what the word I means. You haven't looked into the word, what consciousness means, just like Meena was saying, it's all paroksha jnanam. You first need to understand what is the nature of this I, what is consciousness, what is the world, and what is this person that's being carried around. So what are we teaching in this program? We're first providing you the understanding before showing you what is a direct thinking of a wise person. This is the difference between an affirmation, a one-time statement without the need to understand what it means, and an understanding. Only once you understand, then how do you convert that understanding? You need to then train your mind by thinking in accordance with that understanding. And how do you do that? I am consciousness, kshetrajna, with an incidental body, with these 5 senses, capable of not only perceiving this world also, but also transacting with this world. This is called Nidityasanam Practice. Why? Why do we need to practice this? Because since we are born, how do we speak about ourselves? I am the body, mind, I need this, I need that. Constantly reinforcing the needs of the 4 koshas. Hungry, I am hungry. You want some company? Oh, I need some community. I want to connect with someone. You want some knowledge? I need to get a career. So all our lives, how do we speak? As though this I is a little needy person. But they're all what? They're all needs that belong to what? These 4 koshas. So now we need to change that relationship by understanding every need that you ever wanted belongs to these 4 koshas. In the presence of I, this person called Meena, called Sonia, called Kritika, this person has needs. So if you can first understand who is this knower, then you can still deal with this person, but in a much more objective, mature light. It's not like you're not going to deny this person, but at the same time, you're not going to fall for these constant needs and wants. Oh, I need to be loved. I need to kind of, have my, fame. I need to kind of be somebody, do something, become something. Even though you can, and there's nothing wrong with that, but first understand the nature of I. Only then you can approach the life in a much more pure, more graceful light, in a more graceful way, mature way, without getting enmeshed, totally getting entangled in the needs of the Manomaya kosha or the Vijnanamaya kosha. This is where the point of error happens. The person gets born and they get into like self-help, right? The whole life becomes about self-help. Self-help improves what? Vijnanamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha. Gestalt therapy, NLP, all of that is meant for working with the mind, one of these 5 koshas. And a person now becomes entangled without ever looking who is the subject, who is the knower, in whose presence this constant change is undergoing. What am I saying in summary? We're not denying anything. We're simply recognizing what is the nature, what is the substratum, I, the knower. From that understanding, you can go and approach life with a much more mature, harmonious, graceful, and deliberate and conscious and mindful way. I'm never affected by anything in this world. I am free of the entire world. From that place, you can now maturely problem solve. You can maturely handle the relationship, maturely you go into your career. We need to get into a practice mode. This is not just about speaking it or listening to it. It is about constantly thinking it over and over again, because we have been thinking the opposite for our entire life. Therefore, practice now involves starting to think in the light of how it actually is, instead of how we thought it was. So what is your homework? Remember the statement. I am kshetrajna. The nature of I is kshetrajna. Whatever that knower is, that is the self. That is the final reality. That reality I am. I am that reality. I am kshetrajna. And this body, this mind is incidental. It is given to me to be used in the light of dharma, in the light of contribution, in the light of giving, in the light of educating itself and inspiring those around me. And therefore, this produces a very healthy relationship of those around you, but also towards your own self. So this is not about denying anything or pushing anything under the carpet or saying, oh, you got problems? No, it's all just, it's all just illusion. It's all just kshetram. You're the knower of everything. This has got nothing to do with that. but simply acknowledging the one reality that we have been ignoring since children, since beginningless beginning, bringing that reality very clear now, knowing that reality I am. And then, as I said, you will be able to have a very healthy, healthy, joyful relationship in this world. Because you are free. You're free of everything. You're free of desire. You're free of this body. You're free of death. You're free of life. Life has nothing to do with you, the knower. Death has nothing to do with you, the knower. Nothing has anything to do. You are free and limitless. That is your nature. Of course, why do we experience not limitless while we're alive? I will talk about that next session.
So you want us to be Jivan Muktas by next week?
When and how this Paroksh Gyan would become the direct knowledge? Because until it is at the intellect level, we can't say we understood it, right?
Okay, good. So every knowledge, including self-knowledge, we're talking about Atmajnana, we're talking about Brahma Vidya. This is the knowledge we're speaking, the highest knowledge. It always starts at an intellectual level. It's got to start somewhere, right? So yes, it starts at an intellectual level. Or we kind of like, yeah, but it still sounds fake to me. That sounds like fraud. I'm not really that. So this means we start at least intellectually, and then you start to remind yourself more and more and more. And slowly this constant Nidityasanam becomes firm knowledge, becomes assimilated. This is one thing, by the way, that I hear not many speaking about, because it's usually kind of like, here's the final reality, but then, okay, now how do am I like to say that I am that? Absolutely. Because you are that already. The scriptures say you are the final reality. So why now deny that? Why say, no, I feel shy, I'm not that. See, whatever shyness that it's obstructing, where does that shyness belong to? The causal body, right? The manomaya kosha, the vijnanamaya kosha, again, not I. So this is what we call differentiation between between kshetra and kshetrajna. I'll include the word atma next week. I need to put the words properly in the right context.
Isn't it the mind that is aware of everything? I mean, without the mind, there is no awareness.
The senses are capable of picking up form. The eyes are picking up form.
Yep.
The ears are capable of picking up sound.
Yep.
Form and sound gets put in the mind, in the screen of the mind. But so what? Suppose I have a piece of paper and I write the letter A on it, A. Now you can only say A, why? Because you're witnessing A, right? You're looking at A. But if I remove A, right, then what is there to know? Nothing. So the screen of the mind is the same. Right now on the screen of Dave's mind, there's a webinar. He's probably seeing Andre's face there. He's seeing computer, he's feeling Rani behind him, right? That's all on the screen of the mind. But what is the knower of that mind? Kshetrajna. That knower is what we're saying you are. Tat Tvamasi, you are that very knower. The very knower of the entire universe. The knower which Ishvara is the same knower that you, the individual, the small individual are. This I will discuss in much greater detail to reconcile the difference between the total Ishvara, total reality, and the microcosmic Jiva. So there's a lot more to this teaching. So the mind is not aware. It is I that am aware of the contents of belonging on the screen of the mind. What are those contents? They are all contents picked up through the five senses. Who is watching the screen of the mind? I am, Kshetrajna.
Is yogic samadhi or deep meditation, can we also say that is the causal body known as an object of knowledge?
Okay, is samadhi also the causal body? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Samadhi is not the causal body. Samadhi is freedom from the causal body. That's why the yogis pursue it. So samadhi is like deep sleep, but you are free. That's why it's so blissful, right? So you're not identified with any of the five koshas in samadhi. One that is free, kshetrajna, knows I am free. So samadhi is a direct Advaitam quote experience. Unfortunately, it is an experience, so it comes and goes in time. What happens is then people try to pursue an experience thinking that as long as I stay in samadhi, I'm enlightened.
But even if we can say samadhi is a non-dual experience. I am that kshetrajna, which knows that I am having a samadhi, non-dual experience.
Yeah, okay, good. So there's two kinds of samadhi. Is savikalpa samadhi. That means with kalpa, with thought. This means what? Kshetrajna, I know that I am free of the mind. This means I know that right now there is no object. That's savikalpa samadhi. That's level 1. Nirvikalpa samadhi, this means I and freedom are one. Two totally different realities. So in other words, nirvikalpa samadhi is just like deep sleep. You come back and you don't even know you're in nirvikalpa samadhi. You have to use inference, like Robert said. You just have this memory of bliss.
Also, Andre, something that I do find difficult to understand about the Bhagavad Gita sometimes is that, for example, we're going from this knowledge which says I'm the kshetrajna and I'm the knower. And then all of a sudden, we will go back to the level where Krishna and Arjuna are talking about values. And the thought, I am the knower that is free from the known mind body, is not, I am this mind and body that needs to be improved with values. But they seem to be totally opposite. Yet so quickly in each chapter, we switch between these two knowledges. So it's confusing to me. If our homework is to claim, oh, I am the knower that is free from the known. Yeah. And then next week, we're going to start talking about values. And we're going to say, I am this person who has to, integrate the value of ahimsa in my life. It seems to be totally opposite.
Okay. Does anyone want to answer this?
Well, purity of mind is what probably they're trying to achieve by introducing those values in the Gita, like purify your mind so that you can, the Dharma, knowing what's right from wrong. And then everything else is transitory, like feelings and emotions and all that sort of.
Okay.
But does doing that become an obstacle to one who is trying to integrate the knowledge that I am kshetrajna? Do you know what I mean? Like, for some people, could it be an obstacle almost?
Sometimes you need to put a distance between the subject and the object to actually perceive, and then you can recognize the fusion. So
distance is required sometimes too, because see, our past condition is still going to say, yeah, but this is all knowledge, but you're still the body mind. You're still the body mind, right? So in other words, we have to keep reinforcing. Okay. Now I want to answer this question, what Thomas is bringing up. So he's saying that, why are we talking about the highest knowledge, that I am free of everything? And then in verse 7, we will suddenly go back into values. And values, imply, I'm going to live a harmonious life and be a good person and just live in harmony. Because having this inquiry finished, two possibilities are now possible. Number one, you got the knowledge that we spoke about. And now you're going to say, how do I now live this knowledge? How do I be an expression of this? How do I manifest this knowledge through my words, through my thoughts, through my behavior? How do I inspire people? How do I be this person physically so that I may also inspire and help others? Option 2, you're going to say, I understood, but not completely. So now we go what Lorena was saying. In other words, the mind still is impure. It still hasn't gotten the full scale, the vastness of this knowledge, of this topic. Therefore, we need to purify the mind. So these are two possibilities. Number one, you're going to say, now what? How do I live now? Because I'm still carrying this, a mind, a dirty mind, right? They're still going to keep on sending its old habits, old patterns from childhood. How do I live a happy life? Because you can't live a happy life if there's a mind that's constantly kind of sending, these old habit patterns. Therefore, we need to address that mind. Even if you know the final reality, this person, as long as they're alive, they're carrying this mind with them. You can't get rid of that. Only upon death, it's gone. But you want to wait until death? No, probably not. In other words, you still got many, many more years to live. And you need to learn how to be happy, how to think in the right method, how to approach challenges, how to respond appropriately, to have empathy, to have compassion, to love, to include. All of these are qualities, expressions of this highest knowledge. Does that answer, Thomas?
Yeah. I suppose it's just difficult for me to understand that. So the jnani must know that, yes, I am the knower, and when I'm integrating values into my life, it is the known that grows. It is the known that integrates values. However, the Ajnani thinks I am integrating values.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
So in other words,
but the Jnani also then must know I am free of being a person, a dharmic person, or an adharmic person also. But they wouldn't be adharmic, if you know what I mean.
good. In other words, you wouldn't be a dharmic because in order to get to this point of this knowledge, you have to have already lived a pure life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a desirous mind that's out there is just not going to sit down and listen. It's going to say, boring, give me something better on YouTube, especially if it's 1.5 hours, right? The shorter the attention span, the likely the more impurities in the mind. Not always, but in most cases. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May all be happy, may all be free from illness, may all behold good things, and may no one suffer.